Hello everyone, Jillian here. Welcome to My Heritage Scrapbook. Today I'm dipping my toe in the water of this project using this photo of my grandparents on the right from the 60s at their weekly church bowling league. I thought it would be easiest to start with this photo of two people that I knew very well rather than, let's say, a photo from 1895. So what I'm doing is just trying to figure out the basic construction of the layout. Going into this, I had an idea of how I wanted it to look even before I sat down to scrap it. And so I'm just laying things out to see if that's going to come together. I knew that I wanted to use this red and white Dear Lizzy polka dot paper on the bottom half of the layout underneath my 5x7 photo. I felt like it was playful and retro, and it matched the photo pretty well. Now, I was not alive in the 60s, and everything I know about it I learned from watching Mad Men. So if it's not, don't tell me. So I knew on my page that I wanted to have a large title up top. The title of this page is Flubbers, the name of their bowling team. And I wanted to mat this photo on the teal cardstock. I heard somewhere that teal and red are opposite colors on the color wheel, so that makes them complementary. Regardless, I like the way they look together. Also, it's worth noting here that this is not the original photo. I don't have the original, so I just printed out a scanned copy. And I felt like it was a little easier to work with it, knowing that it wasn't the original. I recommend doing that if that will help you get started. You can always pull up the duplicate copy and put the original down on your layout. It is actually probably the safest place for your original photos to be is in your scrapbook with all of these, archival products. And I apologize for the BS at the top of the layout. Those were the letters nearest to me when I wanted to check out if they would work or not. So what I'm doing here is a technique that I've been seeing a lot of. I think I originally saw Sue's Fish do it. Just copying or tracing the outline of these letters onto black cardstock to cut them out. Now I have very poor scissor skills, so I'm using the perimeter of the piece of cardstock to get a straight edge when I cut these letters out. I also did not cut the interior of the B's or the R because I kind of like how that looks when it's a little more blocky. So I go ahead and get each letter cut out and I put them down on the page to see how they're going to look. And you'll see here in a minute it's pretty top heavy. And I was really bummed because this is how I thought the layout would turn out. So while I'm deciding whether or not I like that, I go ahead and get my washi tape down. I'm using the black and white striped washi tape is from Michaels. It's their Recollections brand, and this gold star from Freckled Fawn. And I decided that I liked the way the gold stars looked with the white cardstock underneath them. That it was easier to see, so I just changed the placement of that. So I get the letters oriented to where I think they would look best on the page, and I'm realizing they're overpowering the photo, so I just can't use them. And I was very frustrated at this point. I thought that this was going to work out. I thought this was going to be an easy layout, so I admittedly was a little peeved that it didn't work out. But I'm really glad that I pushed through it because I love how this layout turned out. Way better than I thought. It's way better than I thought it would be. So I'm going through some thickers here for an alternate idea for the title, and I wanted to use a smaller black alphabet for this. But when I looked through each pack of thickers, I was always missing one letter. So I ended up going with the typewriter key font from, I think it's Dear Lizzy's Daydreamer collection. And I thought the typewriter key was just another nod to the retro feel of this page. So I'm very happy that that worked out. It was kismet, I guess. So once I get the thickers down, I'm going to start pulling some more elements for this page, including 2 chipboard sheets from crepe paper and a 6x12 sticker sheet. I really was trying to make that film strip from a Chamel paper work, but it was just too large. Now the Poolside collection has some really cool retro motifs on it, including that camera that I end up using. I was bummed that I didn't have the red horn-rimmed glasses because I felt like they would have gone perfectly with this page. And I ruled out the Open Road collection because I felt like the colors were just a little too 70s. I thought that this sticker might work, but when I get it down on the page, the colors just don't go together, and I end up removing it. So next up, I knew that I needed to draw my attention to the top of the layout. So I pull out this aqua piece of paper from a Dear Lizzy collection, and I get that trimmed down to become a block on the top of the layout. That's going to house an embellishment cluster, or an embellishment, and my journaling. I knew that I also wanted to bring that red and white polka dot paper in at the top again. But not before I pull out some more gold elements from the chipboard sheet. There's gold at the bottom of the camera, and I wanted to bring it in another way. And I thought the ampersand might work because there's more than one person on the page. So after I get the chipboard pieces selected, I decide to start layering. So I'm going to pull out a couple of papers from the Fine and Dandy collection, including the journaling pattern paper and this gray and white stripe. So what I'm going to do is cut out one of those journaling blocks. On the reverse is a very light gray, almost watercolored pattern. And so I use the reverse of that card to put the camera, to rest the camera on top of. But I'm going to layer the gray and white stripe on top of that. Now I need a little more contrast between those two gray pieces of paper, so I bring in the red and white polka dot. And when I get it down on the page, it just looks very flat to me. It needed some kind of dimension. So I distressed the edges of the paper, but it didn't make a difference. So I get out my black Recollections fine tip journaling pen, and I draw lines around a couple of the sheets of pattern paper. Next up is my journaling. So I pulled out 4 4x6 cards from the Fine and Dandy Project Life Core Kit, and I used the black and white stripe to write my journaling on. Now these cards have rounded corners, which I'm not crazy about, so I trim those off, and then I go ahead and use that aqua dot paper to mat the journaling block onto. Now I wanted an additional layer of pattern paper underneath that. So I go back to my cards after I get the rounded corners trimmed off, and I thought the gray might look nice, but when I put it next to it, there wasn't enough contrast, so I pull out the red and white polka dot paper again. And so I'm glad that that worked out because now I have the red in 3 areas of the page. Now for the journaling, I had to call my mom to get a little background. I knew that this was their bowling league in Dania, but that was the extent of my knowledge. Before I get the journaling down, I'm actually going to use those gold chipboard arrows to draw your attention down to the photo on the bottom. And then to put the gold in one more spot on the page, I'm taking the Gold Star washi tape and putting that at the top right. So after I trim this aqua block down, I realized it was a little too large. Then I go ahead and get my journaling down. I am new to journaling directly on the layout, and so I usually write it in that steno pad that you see off to the left. It helps me figure out the size of my journaling, the spacing, and it helps me kind of like work through what I'm going to say. So the journaling says, right to left, Pa and Nanny and their friends Lori and Mario at their weekly church bowling league in Dania. Nanny wasn't a very good bowler, much to Pa's disappointment. But years later, she loved bowling on her Wii, where she reached pro status. Now, I had no idea that my grandmother was a terrible bowler and that it really annoyed my grandfather. So I just got that from my mom. But I did remember that she loved playing on her Nintendo Wii. So if you do know the people in the photos, in these older photos that you are scrapbooking, certainly include the knowledge that you have about them and those sweet little memories, so that you can look back and remember that. So in order to bring a little activity to the very top of the layout, I decided to layer some washi tape up at the top, repeating what's in the middle of the page. I used the black and white stripe and the gold star. And I'm going to rip the black and white stripe tape down the middle because it was too bulky as is. And I'm happy with how that looks. So the date is on the photo. It says 1965 to 66, but I decided that throughout these albums I want to feature the date prominently. So in the top right corner, using these white Teresa Collins tile stickers, I put down 1965 and 66 and then draw a little dash mark in between there. Now, after I was done filming and taking photos, I decided to go ahead and outline that aqua box of pattern paper so that it provided a little more definition, and you'll see that here in a minute. So here's a look at my finished layout. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you'd like to see more, give me a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.